All right, everybody, get ready. Because today we're going deep into the world of color correction.
Yeah, color correction.
We're going to learn the secrets the pros use to make their videos really pop.
Right.
And get this, our source material's kind of unexpected.
Yeah. What is it?
It's a Hebrew language YouTube tutorial
Oh, wow.
from Door 19 School.
Okay.
We don't speak Hebrew, but the visual language of color correction.
Yeah.
It's universal, right?
It really is. It's like we get to peek into another creative world.
Absolutely. And you don't need subtitles for this deep dive.
That's right.
We're focusing on the core concepts of color correction in DaVinci Resolve.
Okay.
So by the end of this, you'll have like a base understanding
Yeah.
of how to use those sliders and wheels
Right.
to really transform your videos.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they're first starting out,
Yeah.
they get to the point where they've shot some amazing footage
Right.
and it still needs a little something.
Yeah.
And color correction is what can really make it go from meh to wow.
Yes, exactly. It's that secret ingredient,
It is.
that extra little something.
It is.
So this tutorial starts off by showing the layout
Okay.
of the DaVinci Resolve color correction interface.
So we see like different panels
Yeah.
for wheels and graphs and scopes and nodes.
And whoa.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. I'm already kind of nervous just looking at it.
Yeah.
Is this something a regular person can wrap their head around?
Yeah, well, you have to think about it this way.
Okay.
These pros use this software every single day.
Yeah.
So they need to have all of these tools accessible,
Right.
so they can work quickly and efficiently.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Think about it like this.
Okay.
It's like you're trying to paint a masterpiece,
Yeah.
but all your brushes are hidden away in drawers. You're
Mhm.
constantly like digging around trying to find the right one.
Right.
This layout is like having them all laid out in front of you.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, you can see what you're doing.
Yeah,
Make adjustments in real time.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of intimidating,
Yes.
one of the first things that comes up is this graph
Mm-hmm.
called a histogram.
The histogram.
And honestly, histograms have always seemed to me like
Yeah.
something only super technical people understand.
Yeah, they can be confusing.
Am I wrong?
A lot of people see those and their eyes just glaze over.
Right.
But it's not as complicated as it looks.
Okay.
Think of the histogram, specifically the Luma waveform. It's like an X-ray of your image's brightness.
So instead of just eyeballing it,
Exactly.
the Luma waveform actually tells me
That tells you exactly
how bright or dark different parts of my image are.
Yes, and where they fall. Like, you can see if your shadows, your midtones, your highlights, where they all are.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say I was editing a video
Mm-hmm.
of a beautiful sunset,
Okay.
but the sky is so bright,
Yeah.
I'm losing detail in the clouds.
That happens a lot.
The histogram would show me that.
The histogram would show you that right away.
Okay.
And you would know to adjust the highlights.
But it's like a secret weapon
It is.
to make sure I'm not losing detail.
Exactly.
Okay, color me intrigued.
All right.
So we've got this awesome interface that puts all the tools right there in front of us.
Right.
We've got this histogram that's like a superpower.
Yeah.
What else does this tutorial unveil?
Well, next up are the 4 main color wheels:
Okay.
lift, gamma, gain, and offset.
Those sound familiar?
These are your bread and butter
Oh.
for manipulating the tonality of an image.
So this is where we get to be creative.
Yes, this is where the fun begins.
But 4 different wheels.
4 wheels.
That sounds like a lot to juggle.
It might sound like a lot,
Yeah.
but it's actually pretty intuitive once you get the hang of it.
Okay, break it down for me.
Okay, so think back to the days of old school photography,
Okay.
the darkroom,
Yeah.
where you would use chemicals and light to develop photos.
Yeah.
These digital wheels kind of do the same thing, but with way more control.
Okay, so it's like a digital darkroom.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
But what does each wheel actually do?
So let's picture this. You have a shot that's a little bit too dark and shadowy,
Okay.
and you want to brighten it up a little bit, but you don't want to make it look unnatural.
Yeah.
That's where lift comes in.
Okay.
It brightens up those dark parts of the image,
Okay.
and it brings out detail and texture that were hiding in the shadows.
So it's like those shadows are whispering secrets,
They are.
and the lift wheel lets us hear them.
That's a great way to think about it.
I'm digging it. Yeah. What are the other wheels? Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Yeah.
Lift for those hidden shadow details.
Right.
I'm getting it. But we've got 3 more wheels to cover.
You do?
Gamma, gain, and offset.
Yes.
Let's keep this digital darkroom party going.
All right, so imagine you've lifted those shadows.
Yeah.
But the overall image still feels a little flat.
Okay.
Like it needs more oomph. you know?
I know exactly what you mean.
That's where gamma comes in.
Okay.
It tackles those mid-tones where most of the visual information lives.
Okay.
And you can fine-tune the overall brightness and contrast.
So if lift is like revealing secrets in the shadows, then gamma is about bringing the whole picture into focus.
Yes, exactly. Like making sure everything is nice and crisp.
Got it.
And remember how we talked about that beautiful sunset scene?
Yeah, where the sky was too bright?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So gain is the tool for that.
Okay.
It controls the super bright areas, the highlights, and it allows you to add detail back into things like skies and reflections.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So hold on. With just these 3 wheels, lift, gamma, and gain,
yes,
we can already make some huge improvements.
You've created a solid foundation.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really amazing what you can achieve with just those 3.
That is amazing.
Well, of course, there's always more we can do.
Okay, there's more.
That's where offset comes in.
Okay, what's offset?
This wheel shifts the entire tonal range up or down.
The entire image.
The entire image, both highlights and shadows.
Okay.
So it's like a final fine-tuning for the overall exposure.
Interesting. You're making me think about those photos. Like where everything's way too bright or way too dark.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with offset.
How do we know when enough is enough?
That's a great question, and that's the key with color correction.
What is it?
Subtlety.
Subtlety.
Yeah, small adjustments can make a big difference.
Okay.
But if you overdo it,
Yeah.
you can end up with those unnatural looking images where you've lost detail in either the highlights or the shadows.
Okay, so it's all about finding that sweet spot.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I'm hearing you on the subtlety thing.
Good.
It's like adding a pinch of salt to a dish.
Yes.
You don't want to drown out the flavors.
Exactly.
Now, earlier you mentioned some other controls in DaVinci Resolve, like contrast, pivot, saturation, and highlights.
Yes, those give you even more precision.
Where do those fit into all of this?
So remember, we're talking about building layers of adjustments. Those foundational wheels set the stage.
Yeah.
And these additional controls allow you to really fine-tune and shape the look of your video.
Okay, so for example, let's say we wanted to create a really dramatic look. Like film noir. We could increase the contrast.
You could increase the contrast to really separate the lights from the darks.
So contrast makes the darks darker and the lights lighter.
Exactly.
Okay.
But too much contrast can also make things look a little harsh.
Right, so we've got to find the right balance again.
Always finding that balance.
Gotcha. What about this pivot thing?
Pivot is interesting.
It sounds kind of mysterious.
Think of pivot as like the anchor for your contrast adjustments.
Okay.
So let's say you want to increase the contrast in the shadows to create a more dramatic look.
Okay.
But you don't want to affect the highlights.
Right.
Pivot will let you do that.
So it's like we're choosing where those contrast adjustments are happening.
Exactly. You're controlling where they're more prominent.
Wow. It's like a dimmer switch.
It is.
For specific parts of the image.
That's a great way to think about it.
Okay, now this one seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Saturation.
Saturate.
More saturation equals more colorful images, right?
Generally, yes. Saturation controls the intensity of the colors.
Yeah.
But sometimes less is more.
Okay, so...
Let's say you're working on like a romantic scene.
Okay.
And you want to create a soft, dreamy look.
Yeah.
You might actually want to dial back the saturation a bit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about making things look colorful.
It's about using saturation to support the story you're trying to tell.
Right. Create the right mood.
Exactly.
Okay, what about highlights?
Highlights give you that fine-grained control over the brightest parts of the image.
So we can use it to tame those overly bright skies we talked about earlier.
You can also use it to add a subtle glow to someone's face. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's all about those little details.
Okay, this is all starting to click.
Yeah.
We've gone through all these individual controls.
Yes.
But how does it all come together?
Right, so this tutorial doesn't actually walk us through a full color correction workflow.
Right.
We're just kind of watching this colorist work their magic.
Okay.
But if we were to kind of connect this to the bigger picture.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's imagine we're actually sitting with this colorist, watching them work.
All right.
What would we see?
So first, they'd probably tackle those shadows.
Okay.
With the lift wheel.
Yes. Bringing up those darker areas, revealing that detail.
Yeah.
Then they might play around with the gamma a bit to find that sweet spot for the overall brightness and contrast.
Got it. So that's like the foundation.
That's the foundation.
What happens next?
From there, it's all about refining.
Okay.
So they might make some subtle adjustments with that offset wheel.
Okay. To fine-tune the exposure.
Exactly. And then they could add a touch of contrast to create more separation between the lights and darks.
And maybe use pivot to control where those contrast adjustments are happening.
Exactly. And then they might tweak the saturation.
Yeah, to create the right mood.
Exactly. Whether it's something vibrant and colorful.
Right.
Or something more subdued.
Okay.
And finally, they'd use those highlights. To make sure those bright parts of the image are looking their best.
Wow. It's like watching an artist at work.
It is.
They're not just correcting problems.
Right.
They're shaping the story with every adjustment.
That's the magic of color correction.
I'm starting to realize that there's so much more to this.
There is.
Than I ever imagined. It's a whole art form.
It really is. And while this Hebrew tutorial gives us a great visual demonstration, there's a whole world of knowledge behind these techniques.
Speaking of knowledge, earlier we mentioned nodes and the alpha channel.
Oh, yes.
But we didn't really dive into what those are.
Right.
Should we unpack those now?
Well, those are a bit more advanced.
Okay.
But they're definitely worth mentioning.
Okay.
So imagine you have a scene with a character standing in front of a window.
Okay.
You want to brighten up the character's face.
Yeah.
But you don't want to affect the brightness of the window.
Oh, that's tricky.
That's where nodes come in. They're like layers for your color adjustments.
Oh, okay.
So you can create a node that only affects the character's face.
Wow.
And leaves the window untouched.
So nodes give you that superpower to isolate specific parts of the image.
Exactly.
And make adjustments without affecting everything else.
Yes. It's like laser focus for your color correction.
Cool.
And the alpha channel is a bit more technical.
Okay.
But essentially, it deals with transparency.
Transparent, like making things see-through.
Kind of. So imagine you're adding like a graphic overlay to your video, like a logo or some text. The alpha channel determines how transparent that overlay is, so you can blend it with the background footage.
Okay, I can see how that would be super useful.
Yes.
For like visual effects and stuff.
Exactly.
So, while this tutorial just briefly mentions these concepts, it's kind of a glimpse into a much larger world.
It is. It's a vast world of possibilities within color correction.
Right. And there's so many tools and techniques out there.
So many.
It's amazing what you can achieve with practice.
Yeah, and a little bit of knowledge.
Right.
It's really incredible.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We talked about the interface.
Yes.
The histogram. Those all-important color wheels.
Right.
We even touched on some advanced techniques.
We did.
Like nodes and the alpha channel.
Yes.
What else is there to explore?
Well, in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to zoom out and look at how all of this fits into the bigger picture of filmmaking.
Right.
We'll explore how color correction goes beyond just those technical adjustments and becomes this powerful storytelling tool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that. Let's take this color journey to the next level.
Let's do it.